attentive students at home. My name is Adegbite Oluwayomi Dayo. Today's literature in English lesson is going to be on African prose, and the title of the text we are going to be analyzing is The Second-Class Citizen by Buchi Emechita. In the course of today's lesson, the students will be able to, number one, highlight and discuss the major events in the novel. Number two, identify and discuss the messages the author is trying to pass across to the readers. Number three, analyze the author's style of writing. Number four, identify and discuss the roles of the characters in the novel. Now, introduction. The novel is a poignant story of a resourceful Nigerian woman who overcomes strict tribal domination of women and countless setbacks to achieve an independent life for herself and her children. The novel is a semi-autobiography with the journey from Nigeria to London. Now, plot summary. In analyzing the plot structure of the novel, we are going to be analyzing Ada's life challenges in two ways, which are, number one, Ada's life experiences in Nigeria. Number two, Ada's life experiences in London. Now we start with Ada's life experiences in Nigeria. Second-Class Citizen tells the story of Ada Ofili from her childhood to her early years in London. The 8-year-old Ada, who was born in Lagos during World War II, can only dream of going to school since she was not allowed to attend because she was not a boy. One day, when her mother is distracted, Ada goes to Methodist school where a neighbor teaches, and he allows her to remain for the day. When she returns home, the police are there. Her mother is punished for child's neglect, yet Ada is allowed to continue with her schooling. A few months later, Ada's father dies. Her mother is inherited by her father's brother. Her brother, boy, goes to live with one of her father's cousins, and Ada is sent to live with one of her mother's brothers, only because she could bring a higher bride price if educated. So she is allowed to remain in school. Several suitors came to ask for Ada's hand in marriage, but she is not interested in any of them. Instead, she is fascinated with the possibility of winning a scholarship to secondary school. Ada steals money in order to sit for the common entrance examination. She passes and wins scholarship. She decides to marry Francis Obi, a student who could not afford to pay the bride price. Ada is full of hopes to continue her education after her marriage to Francis. She then gives birth to a daughter and starts working for the American Consulate Library. Ada shares the dream of going to United Kingdom with her husband. They decide to go, but his family, who depends on her income, approves of her husband leaving, but insists that Ada remain in Lagos. She agrees for a time, but eventually persuade her in-laws to allow her to travel to England. Ada's dream comes true when she sails to London with her 2 children. Now, Ada in London. On getting to London, things are not working out well. There are complications when she gives birth to the 3rd child. Her husband did not care for her while she was on admission for a few weeks in the hospital. The money that is sent to Ada from her workplace is confiscated by her husband for personal advancements. It's then dawned on Ada that she did not marry the man of her dreams. Francis, her husband, makes her realize that she is a second-class citizen. In spite of Francis's conciliation, Ada rejects the notion of being a second-class citizen. She is able to get a first-class citizen's job and insists upon taking care of her children, a trait linked in England only to white women. Contrary to Ada's expectation, Francis's behavior is very overwhelming and frustrating because he neither works to feed his family nor passes his examinations. Ada passes a part of her library examination and gets a job at the Chalk Farm Library. She develops interest in literature. Ada experiences a lot of domestic violence and fights all the time with her husband. Eventually, Ada completes a novel titled The Bride Price and is widely acclaimed to be the best by Bill and her colleagues. Ironically, Frances badmouths the novel and burns the manuscript. To Ada, Frances's wickedness is likened to killing her first baby, which eventually contributes to the destruction of the marriage. Subsequently, violence and damages of Ada's property makes her to take a bold step by going to court to dissolve the marriage. Thank you. Don't go away. You are welcome back to the second segment of today's lesson as we go on to discuss the themes. The major themes that are obvious in the novel are: number 1, theme of racism; number 2, theme of class and gender; number 3, theme of domestic violence and failed marriage. Number 1, theme of racism. There are many instances of racism in the novel. Clearly, the English abhorred their own forms of racism against immigrants, including Nigerian like Ada and Francis. For example, Ada's son has to receive medical care at a second-class hospital when he is stricken with meningitis. Also, Ada and her family have to live in a filthy environment, that is a ghetto, when they arrived in London. Her husband, Francis, tells her, and I quote, "Everyone is coming to London, the West Indians, the Pakistanis, and even the Indians, so that African students are usually grouped together with them. We are all blacks, all coloreds, and the only house we can get are horrors like this." End of quotation, page 35. The English hold stereotypes that all brown people are the same and should be segregated in housing, medical care, and other areas. Ada has an elite education and background in Nigeria. She harbors her own stereotypes of Nigerians from lower class backgrounds as crude and lesser. Her husband, Francis, tells her, and I quote, "You may be earning £1,000,000 a day, but the day you land in England, you are a second-class citizen. So you can't discriminate against your own people because we are all second-class." End of quotation, page 37. Also, blacks cannot live with their children in England because their houses are choked up. In this wise, and I quote, "Nigerian children have two sets of mothers, the natal mother and the social mother." End of quotation, page 50. Parents allow the fostering parents to take care of their children because of accommodation problems. Ada refuses to give her children to foster parents, but rather secures a nursery for Titi and Vicky. The second theme of class and gender. The title of the novel speaks for itself. It is set in post-colonial Nigeria. The setting is reflected in Ada's experiences as a society featured by cultural conflicts of conservative Nigerian values. Ada's story is a very pathetic one, right from the beginning of the narration. And I quote, "She was a girl who arrived when everybody was expecting and predicting a boy. So, since she was a disappointment to her tribe, nobody thought of recording her birth. She was so insignificant." End of quotation, page 7 to 8. This means that Ada has no place in the family record because she's a girl. Ada's marriage represents the culmination of the patriarchal imposition manifested in Francis and his father. It is the father-in-law that takes decision for the couple. When Ada wants to work with the Americans, Francis' father responds to Francis' rejection that, and I quote, "Let her go and work for 1,000,000 Americans and bring their money here into this house. It is your luck. You made a good choice in marriage, son." End of quotation, page 25. Hence, Ada's salary is used to take care of her husband and their entire family, that is paying school fees of Francis' 7 sisters. All these and many more instances portrays the theme of class and gender in the story. Now, the third theme of domestic violence and failed marriage. This is an abuse by one person or another in a domestic setting, such as a marriage. This is very evident in Ada's marriage to Francis. According to the novel, Francis, Ada's husband, is an abuser, an irresponsible and a shameless man. He neither works to feed his family nor passes his examination. When Ada decides not to feed him again, it was then that he is compelled to go out and work as a clerical officer in the post office. As soon as Ada gets another good job, he stops working. In actual sense, Ada decides to marry Francis in order to avoid pressures from his family that wants her to marry an old bald-headed man who can pay the expensive bride price. She thinks that marrying Francis, a young poor boy, will help her in achieving her dreams, her desired dream. As at the time of the marriage, the two of them, that is Ada and Francis, are underage. The marriage scenario is a very ridiculous one. The couple forgets the wedding ring and they were married the following day. This is a very bad sign. No wonder the marriage is too turbulent for Ada. All these and many more instances of violence contributes to the theme of domestic violence and failed marriage in the novel. Thank you. I'll be right back. I welcome you back to the last segment of today's lesson as we go on to discuss the author's style of writing. We start with the language. The following features of language are used by the author in his narration. Number 1, meticulous description and graphic details. Emecheta is able to achieve this through clear and detailed description of events, incidents, characters, setting, action, and atmosphere, which flows through the narration. An instance of this is the description of Ada's thoughts when she hears her name after the divorce of her husband. And I quote, "The first thought that struck her was she was dying because nobody had called her by that name except people who knew her as a little girl, and only Pa used to call her like that, drawing out every syllable." End of quotation. Page 192. The next one is use of Nigerian English. Emecheta uses indigenous languages in the following manner to portray the socio-cultural background of the characters in the setting. For example, Ìyàwó, page 92, Yoruba word for a young wife. The next one, Opó, page 103, Igbo word for a young woman. The author is from Igbo tribe of Nigeria, and she was brought up in Lagos, a Yoruba society. Obviously, she has been exposed to these two languages. Biblical allusion is another example, and I quote, "It was all right for Mary to have us in the stable in Bethlehem." End of quotation. Page 88. This refers to the biblical Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the birth of her son, Jesus, in the manger. The next one is the use of proverbs and saying. There are several usages of proverbs and popular sayings in the text. Instances are: we are told of Mr. Noble, a character in the novel, who, when he came to England as a wealthy man, had friends all around, but now he has spent all he has. He is left friendless because, and I quote, "his friends of the happier days took to their heels." Page 47. The above is an example of a saying. An example of a proverb is, and I quote, "A hungry dog does not play with one with a full stomach." End of quotation. Page 76. This explains Ada's thoughts on Francis' relationship with their Yoruba neighbors, who are not privileged as they are. Now, the next one is figures of speech. These are used by the author to create images in the mind of the reader. For example, simile, metaphor, irony, personification, and so on. Now, simile. This is used severally in the novel. Example, and I quote, "Ada, from the day of her registry marriage, had seen the romantic side of her life being shattered like broken glass about her." End of quotation. Page 25. Here, Ada's romantic life is compared with broken glass. The next one, metaphor. The author makes use of metaphoric language. Example, these women were so proud of this new lawyer because to them it meant the arrival of their own Messiah, end of quotation, page 2. From the above, the new lawyer is compared to a Messiah. The next one is irony. This is also used in the novel. Example, and I quote, Ada scribbled away enjoying the smell of krokro and dried sweat, end of quote. The smell of krokro, that is rashes, and dried sweat obviously are not appealing, so they cannot be enjoyed. This is used in an ironic manner. Now, the next one, personification. An example of personification relates to Ada's identification of the river that ran through her town in Nigeria. Ada speaks of the river Oboshi as a female person, and I quote, oil was discovered very near her, and she allowed the oilmen to dig her, end of quotation. Ada, in this same passage, wonders about the river's lack of attention. Now, these are many more stylistic devices are used in the text. I hope you have gained a lot from today's lesson. Thank you. Now, for further studies, you can Google https://blogokadabooks.com or https://scholarblog.emory. Thank you.